The sky above Tarian Station was a color humanity had never named. It was neither blue nor violet, but a turbulent mixture that seemed alive, swirling with unease. From orbit, the station looked peaceful, a jewel of human ingenuity drifting among alien stars. Yet within its walls, silence screamed. Commander Elias Rowan stood at the observation deck, his hands clenched around the railing, knuckles white. His eyes, gray as frozen steel, reflected not the cosmos outside but the storm inside him. He had fought battles that left entire worlds scorched, civilization shattered, and yet here, in the heart of human ambition, he felt the first flicker of helplessness. "They're coming," whispered Lieutenant Mara Selwyn, her voice soft but urgent. She always spoke truth without fear. Her long brown hair hung in a loose braid over her shoulder, and in her gaze there was the fire of 1,000 untold stories. "The Arbax fleet. They've arrived." Elias did not turn. "We knew this day would come. Humanity has always been too bold, too loud. The question is, will we be clever enough to survive it?" Mara's eyes narrowed. "Or cunning enough. The Arbax do not fight as humans fight. They do not value life, strategy, deception. They make it an art." Elias swallowed, feeling the weight of centuries compressed into a single moment. The generals, himself included, had trained for decades. Wars had forged them. Yet the Arbax, with their sharp minds and alien patience, had anticipated every move. A siren tore through the station. Red lights flashed, bathing everything in urgency and fear. The humans had 40 minutes before the first boarding pods would pierce their outer defenses. 40 minutes to survive, to strike, to deceive. 40 minutes to prove that human cunning could match an enemy that had never known mercy. Elias turned at last, facing Mara. "We cannot defend the station conventionally. They expect that. They know our ships, our guns, our walls. We must do something they cannot anticipate." Mara's lips curled into a faint smile, fierce and dangerous. "A trap," Elias's heart thudded. "A trap? What do you have in mind?" She stepped closer, lowering her voice. "We let them believe they are victorious. We let them hang the generals. In public, we feed them false triumph. Then when they think humanity is broken, we strike." The silence that followed was heavier than any bombardment. Rowan had planned many traps in his life, but never one so audacious, so perilous. You would risk everything. Your life, mine, all of it, to turn their victory into their defeat. "Yes," Mara said simply, "because that is what humans do best. We endure, we deceive, and we fight when hope is almost gone." Elias nodded, a cold determination settling into his bones. The station's corridors echoed with the hurried steps of soldiers preparing for doom. Yet somewhere deep inside him, he felt the spark of humanity's indomitable spirit flare. He remembered the stories of old Earth, the small towns that had resisted empires, the clever children who had outwitted tyrants, the scientists who had turned almost nothing into survival. Humanity had always found a way, often when the odds were infinite and hope a fragile candle. "Time is short," he murmured. "We will make them believe they have won. We will show them that humanity is never defeated until it chooses to be." The observation deck shook as distant explosions rippled through the outer hull. Elias and Mara watched the shadows of Arbax boarding pods descend, like dark wings against the dying light of Tarian Station. Each pod carried soldiers, alien, precise, cold. They moved like a single organism, unbroken, unfeeling. Yet Rowan's heart did not falter. For every Arbax who thought they understood humans, there were countless stories they could never predict. For every victory they imagined, there were traps laid with love, courage, and the desperate brilliance of survival. And in that moment, as the red lights flickered and the station shuddered, Elias Rowan realized the first rule of humanity. We never give up. We never surrender. And when all seems lost, we strike back with deadly precision. The trap had been set. The generals would fall, but the story of humanity was far from over. The halls of Tarian Station were filled with eerie silence, punctuated only by the distant clang of alien boots. The Arbax had claimed the station as their own, or at least that was what they wanted everyone to believe. Banners of their strange black and silver insignia draped over once proud human corridors. The generals, Elias Rowan, Mara Selwyn, and the others, stood shackled before the Arbax High Council, their faces calm, betraying nothing of the storm raging inside. High Commander Varric, the lead Arbax general, leaned forward. His forearms moved with uncanny grace as he examined the humans. Your defenses failed. Your fleets are ashes. Your species, fragile and predictable. Elias's gray eyes, shadowed with steel and fire, met Varric's gaze. He allowed the smallest smile to creep across his face. Fragile? He asked quietly. Perhaps, but sometimes, it is the smallest flame that burns the brightest. Varric did not understand. No Arbax ever did. They measured victory in territory and numbers and obedience. They had never learned the subtle art of human hope. The Arbax prepared the ceremonial hangings, their twisted sense of ritual delighting in human fear. Each general was led to the platform, shackled in iron, standing beneath the rigging that would soon decide their fate. Around them, the Arbax soldiers whispered their triumph, convinced the humans were finished. But Mara Selwyn's mind raced. The trap they had prepared was not just clever, it was brilliant. Every step, every movement had been choreographed for maximum deception. Humans had been defeated in appearance, yes, but in reality, the Arbax had walked straight into a battlefield of fire and shadows, one they could neither anticipate nor survive. Elias's voice was calm, almost serene. "Do you know the story of the Phoenix?" he asked quietly to Mara, just enough for her to hear. "I do," she replied, a faint smile playing on her lips. "It dies in flames, and rises stronger." The Arbax soldiers did not understand the exchange. They never noticed subtlety, and that was their downfall. As the Arbax prepared the final ritual, human engineers and soldiers hidden in the shadows activated their devices. The lights of Tarian Station flickered, then exploded in cascades of blinding white. Smoke filled the corridors, alarms screamed, and the air itself seemed to ignite. The Arbax, trained to believe they had won, were caught entirely off guard. Elias's shackles released at the precise moment, mechanisms triggered by hidden allies. Mara's chains fell away in a symphony of mechanical precision. Together they leapt from the platform, moving like lightning through the confusion. The Arbax scrambled, trying to regroup, but the humans had already rewritten the rules of engagement. Hidden artillery activated, turning the station into a furnace of controlled destruction. Hallways collapsed, smoke and fire masking the movement of human soldiers who struck with ruthless precision. Every move had been calculated, every step designed to punish the invaders for their arrogance. Varric roared in frustration, unable to adapt to the chaos. "This is impossible. How can a defeated species fight with such creativity?" Elias's voice echoed through the chamber, firm and unyielding. "Because humanity never surrenders. You may have taken our walls, you may have captured our generals, but you will never take our spirit. That is a mistake you cannot correct." The flames spread with methodical beauty, each ignition point selected to maximize confusion and minimize human loss. The Arbax, masters of brute force, found themselves ensnared in human ingenuity, and their confidence crumbled faster than their ranks. Amidst the inferno, Mara moved with lethal grace, guiding civilians and soldiers alike through secret passages, ensuring survival and victory were intertwined. Every human heart beat with courage, every mind worked in harmony, creating a symphony of resistance that no alien could predict. By the time the Arbax realized the trap, the station was already a battlefield under human control once more. They had come to claim victory, but it was humanity that wrote the new ending, one of fire, resilience, and precision. And in the center of the chaos, as flames danced around shattered walls and smoke painted the corridors in shades of wrath and hope, Elias Rowan and Mara Selwyn stood side by side. They were free, the generals alive, and their eyes, bright with determination, promised that the Arbax had learned the first lesson of human defiance. Victory had not been claimed by the Empire. Victory had been claimed by humanity, and they did so in flames. The Arbax had withdrawn, but their retreat was not a surrender. It was the calm before the storm. Humanity had survived Tarian Station, but the cost was etched into every corridor, every face, every shattered piece of technology. Smoke lingered like a ghost, a reminder that victory always demanded sacrifice. Elias Rowan walked among the survivors, his boots echoing in the hollowed halls. The station, though scarred, was alive with the pulse of human determination. Engineers worked tirelessly to stabilize life support systems, medics treated the wounded, and soldiers carried messages like lightning along the fractured comms lines. Mara Selwyn joined him, her face streaked with soot and sweat, eyes burning with unspoken questions. "They will come back," she said quietly. "And next time they will be smarter, Faster, deadlier. Elias nodded. Then we must be smarter than they can imagine. We are not just fighting to survive. We are fighting to teach them the cost of underestimating humanity. Across the station, screens flickered to life, projecting the image of the Arbax High Council, frustrated and furious. They had underestimated the humans' resilience and cunning, and now every movement was calculated to avenge their humiliation. But the humans had a plan, one that went beyond brute force, a strategy rooted in patience, ingenuity, and the deep understanding of their enemy's psychology. Hidden throughout the remnants of Tarian Station were traps and diversions, silent as shadows. Each corridor, each air vent, each collapsed wall was a deliberate puzzle designed to mislead and disorient the Arbax when they returned. Humans had learned that war was not always about guns or fleets, it was about minds. Elias and Mara convened with the other generals in the command room, now rebuilt enough to serve its purpose. Maps of Arbax movements, intelligence reports, and predictive algorithms filled the holographic screens. Every piece of data was a thread in a web that would snare the invaders when they thought themselves untouchable. Humans are dangerous when cornered, Elias murmured. We turn fear into strategy, pain into power. The Arbax must think they are striking us at our weakest when in reality, they are stepping into the trap we set before the fire ever burned. Mara leaned over the table, her fingers tracing the path of the Arbax fleet. We've predicted their next move. They will target the Hespera outpost. It is isolated, lightly defended. They will see it as an easy victory. But it is there that we strike back and show them humanity is more than metal and blood. It is ingenuity, courage, and spirit. The soldiers, many barely recovered from Tarian Station, listened in silence. Fear still lingered in the corners of their minds, but it was tempered by determination. The essence of humanity thrived in moments like these. The courage to act even when the odds were infinite. The will to fight when hope seemed fragile. Hours later, under the cloak of darkness and deception, human ships departed Tarian Station. Sleek, fast, and deadly, they moved like shadows through the void unseen by Arbax sensors. Each vessel carried carefully concealed weapons, special squads trained to strike with surgical precision, and communications designed to mislead and confuse. Mara piloted one of the lead ships, her hand steady on the controls. The trap is alive, she said softly. They will not see it coming. Not until it is too late. Elias watched from the observation deck of the command cruiser. The stars outside stretched in streaks of light as the ships accelerated. He could feel the pulse of human resilience in every engine, every heartbeat aboard the fleet. They were a living testament to the species' will to survive and to conquer adversity. Not through raw power alone, but through intelligence, courage, and unbreakable spirit. When the Arbax finally arrived at Hespera Outpost, they believed victory was theirs. The humans, however, had rewritten the rules. Hidden minefields detonated, communications were intercepted and manipulated, and human squads struck from unexpected angles. Panic spread among the Arbax ranks as they realized that the species they had underestimated was not only alive, but orchestrating a counterstrike of terrifying precision. In the midst of chaos, Elias and Mara moved like shadows among the Arbax, their presence more psychological than physical. Each appearance, each calculated strike was a message. Humanity does not merely endure, it adapts, learns, and conquers. By the time the battle ended, the Arbax were in retreat again, staggering under the weight of a species they had thought broken. Humanity had taken the first step in a war of wits and courage that the aliens would never forget. And as the fires of victory lit the darkened skies of Hespera Outpost, Elias Rowan whispered to Mara, "We've shown them the truth. Humanity does not die. We ignite, we endure. And when the time comes, we will burn brighter than any star they know." The Arbax fleet was silent in the void, scattered like wounded predators. They had underestimated humanity once, but the sting of their failure drove them into ruthless recalibration. For them, defeat was unthinkable. For humanity, it was never permanent. It was a lesson, a spark for something greater. Elias Rowan stood on the bridge of the newly rebuilt flagship Dauntless, the hum of its engines vibrating through his bones. Beside him, Mara Selwyn traced star charts and tactical projections with meticulous precision. They had won small victories, but the war had only just begun. Every moment of delay allowed the Arbax to regroup, to adapt, to become deadlier. Yet, the humans had a secret. Adaptability, creativity, ingenuity, traits no Arbax machine or regiment could predict. Elias, Mara said, her voice steady but urgent. We need to take the fight to them. The Arbax are reorganizing around the Crimson Nebula. If we strike now, we can split their forces before they consolidate. Our strategy must be rapid, precise, surgical. Elias nodded. We will not merely attack. We will reshape the battlefield. They will learn the true cost of underestimating humanity. The fleet surged through space like shadows of fire, fast and silent, cloaked by the chaos of distant cosmic storms. Each vessel carried specially trained squads capable of sabotage, infiltration, and psychological warfare. Every mission, every strike, had been designed to maximize confusion among the Arbax while minimizing human losses. Humanity's courage was not loud. It was deliberate, focused, and terrifying in its clarity. The first clash occurred near the fringes of the Crimson Nebula. Arbax patrols, confident and unprepared, were met not with overwhelming force but with precision strikes that crippled their ships without warning. Mines ignited with perfect timing, sabotaged communications severed their coordination, and human pilots, small in number but deadly in skill, struck with lightning efficiency. Elias and Mara coordinated the maneuvers from the bridge, their synergy a dance of intellect and instinct honed over decades. Mara's voice cut through the comms. Target the command ship. They cannot adapt if their leaders cannot see the battlefield. The Dauntless sliced through enemy lines, lasers weaving like ribbons of light. The humans were fewer, but their coordination and ingenuity made them seem like an unstoppable force. Every Arbax ship that fell was a lesson in underestimating humanity. Every survivor carried the psychological weight of fear, a weapon humans wielded better than any gun. But it was not just technology or strategy. It was spirit. Every human aboard the ships fought not because they had to, but because they believed in something greater than survival. They believed in humanity itself. That belief became a force, a ripple that spread across the battlefield. Courage is contagious, and the Arbax began to falter, sensing a will they could not suppress. Amid the chaos, Elias remembered the young cadets from Tarian Station, their faces filled with hope and determination, despite the horrors they had witnessed. They fight not just with weapons, he muttered, almost to himself. They fight with hearts that refuse to break. As the battle escalated, Mara led a team of infiltrators directly onto the flagship of the Arbax commander. Silence, stealth, and precision were their allies. They moved through corridors filled with alien technology, laying traps and sending false data back to Arbax sensors. Every step they took deepened the Arbax's confusion, turning the battlefield into a labyrinth they could not navigate. By the time the Arbax commander realized the extent of the human strike, it was already too late. Their fleet was fractured, communications disrupted, and morale shattered. Humanity had not merely survived, they had dictated the terms of engagement. In the aftermath, as the survivors regrouped in orbit around a liberated human colony, Elias Rowan addressed the fleet. His voice carried across comms, calm, resolute, inspiring. They claimed victory once, he said. They thought we were weak. They thought we would fall. But humanity does not break. We do not surrender. We fight. We adapt. And when the darkness seems absolute, we become the flame that lights the stars. Today, we have proven that humanity's spirit is not a weapon to be taken. It is a force that conquers every obstacle. Mara stood beside him, eyes reflecting the stars beyond. This is only the beginning, she said softly. We are not just defending our home. We are teaching the universe that humanity is not to be underestimated. Across the fleet, human voices cheered, the sound amplified not just by victory, but by the realization that they had transcended fear. The Arbax had underestimated the flame of humanity, and that miscalculation would echo across the cosmos for generations to come. In the silent void of space where stars glimmered like distant promises, humanity had written its new chapter, not in surrender, not in fear, but in fire, courage, and unbreakable will. The stars seemed colder as the human fleet approached the Arbax home systems. No longer were they defending. Now they were hunters carrying the weight of a species that had turned survival into an art. Yet, the closer they came to Arbax territory, the heavier the tension became. Elias Rowan walked the bridge of Dauntless, the hum of engines a constant reminder that every moment counted. Each decision carried consequences not only for the fleet but for humanity itself. Mara Selwyn stood beside him, tracing the holographic map of the Arbax worlds, each star a potential trap, each orbit a calculated risk. "They know we're coming," Mara said softly, almost to herself, "and they will expect us to strike with anger. But we cannot let them see our fear nor our caution." Elias nodded. "We must remember, Mara, humanity is strongest when we act with reason as well as courage. Recklessness is death. Precision is survival." Across the fleet, soldiers readied themselves, not with the despair of impending battle, but with the conviction of purpose. Human hearts carried a fire that no alien intellect could predict, a fire born of hope, of survival against impossible odds, and of the belief that they were writing history in their own terms. The first Arbax defenses were brutal, mines that lit space with deadly precision, automated drones that tracked every movement, and sensor networks that probed for weakness. But humans had learned to see beyond brute force. Using false signals, decoy ships, and electronic warfare, they bent the battlefield to their will. Each move was a carefully laid step, each engagement a lesson in patience, cunning, and adaptability. Yet the real challenge came not from firepower but from moral choices. Human intelligence had discovered colonies where Arbax enslaved entire species. Civilizations harvested to serve their war machine. Elias knew that striking directly could save lives but risk the fleet. Holding back could preserve the fleet, but innocent lives would perish. Mara placed her hand on his shoulder. "We are not just warriors," she said quietly. "We are humanity, and humanity does not abandon those who cannot defend themselves. The greatest strength is knowing when to fight with heart as well as strategy." Elias took a deep breath, feeling the weight of every life aboard the fleet and every life they sought to protect. "Then we fight both ways," he said. "We protect the innocent and we dismantle the Arbax war machine piece by piece. Every victory must be decisive, every action precise." The fleet split into coordinated wings. One wing, under Mara's command, moved stealthily to liberate the colonies, avoiding detection as much as possible. The other, led by Elias, engaged Arbax fleets in decoy strikes, drawing attention away from the vulnerable worlds. As Mara's team infiltrated the colonies, she saw the true cost of the Arbax's cruelty. Starved beings broken by oppression, yet eyes flickering with the first glimmers of hope at the sight of humans. Every rescued life was a victory, but also a reminder of what they had endured and what they had lost. Meanwhile, Elias's fleet faced an Arbax armada twice their size. The battle was calculated, not chaotic. Humans used feints, misdirection, and daring maneuvers that seemed impossible to an alien mind. Each human pilot knew instinctively when to strike, when to retreat, and when to exploit a flaw. Victory was not about numbers. It was about strategy and courage. Hours into the engagement, Elias saw an opening. A decisive strike that could cripple the Arbax fleet but risked his own forces heavily. He hesitated, thinking of the lives depending on him. Then he remembered Tarian Station, Hespera outpost, and every human who had refused to surrender. "Take the risk," he commanded, voice steady. "We do this for every life enslaved, every hope denied. Humanity fights and humanity wins." The strike was executed with deadly precision. Arbax ships exploded in cascades of light, their formations collapsing. Mara's team simultaneously liberated the colonies, guiding terrified beings to safety through narrow escape corridors. When the chaos ended, Elias and Mara reunited aboard Dauntless, exhausted but resolute. Around them, freed colonies rejoiced, survivors clinging to the humans who had saved them. The fleet, though battered, had proven that ingenuity, courage, and heart could overcome superior force. Elias looked at Mara, eyes heavy with fatigue but shining with determination. "We've won this battle," he said. "But the war is far from over. And each time we must remember that humanity's greatest weapon is not our ships or our guns. It is our spirit." Mara smiled faintly, placing a hand on his shoulder. "And our spirit will burn brighter than any darkness the Arbax can summon. In the black expanse of space, where stars flickered like distant promises, humanity pressed onward, carrying hope, courage, and the unyielding determination to write its own destiny across the universe. The Arbax homeworld loomed like a black jewel against the void. Its surface was scarred by centuries of conquest, its skies filled with relentless energy fields designed to incinerate anything that dared approach. To any other species, the planet would have been impenetrable. To humanity, it was a challenge to be met with strategy, courage, and a spark that no alien intellect could anticipate. Elias Rowan stood on the bridge of Dauntless, staring at the swirling storm of Arbax defenses. The fleet around him moved with disciplined precision, a living organism of human ingenuity. Mara Selwyn traced defensive grids with her finger on the holographic map, her brow furrowed in concentration. "They've expected a direct assault," Mara said quietly. "They think we will throw everything at them head on. But humans don't fight that way. We adapt, we deceive, and we strike at the heart when they least expect it." Elias's eyes narrowed, gray as tempered steel. "Then we make them believe they are safe, and we ignite the fire that will end this war." The plan was audacious. The human fleet would split into 3 waves. The first to feign a frontal assault, drawing the Arbax forces outward. The second to infiltrate orbital defenses and disable their planetary shields. The third, the most daring, would carry the strike team directly to the heart of the Arbax Command Citadel, where the High Council awaited. Every officer aboard Dauntless understood the stakes. Failure meant annihilation. Success meant liberation, not just for humanity, but for every species enslaved by the Arbax. Fear lingered in the shadows of their minds, but it was tempered by resolve. Humanity had always risen in moments of impossible odds, and now was no different. As the first wave engaged, the Arbax unleashed torrents of energy that turned the void into fire. Lasers lanced across space and automated drone swarms descended like deadly flocks. Yet human ships, nimble and unpredictable, danced through the chaos, their movements both elegant and lethal. Elias and Mara coordinated each strike with surgical precision. Every explosion, every diversion, was part of a symphony of chaos designed to mislead the Arbax. The first wave drew their attention, as expected, and the enemy committed fully, believing victory was within reach. Then came the second wave. Engineers aboard stealth vessels infiltrated the orbital defense stations, bypassing energy shields and security protocols. Systems exploded silently, cutting power grids, disabling orbital guns, and opening corridors that no Arbax mind had foreseen. Finally, the third wave, humanity's most daring gambit, descended toward the planet itself. Mara led the strike team aboard stealth shuttles, each vessel carrying only what was necessary: precision explosives, infiltration units, and humans determined to write history. The High Council's fortress was a labyrinth of alien design, impossible to map fully from orbit. Yet humans thrived in impossibility. Mara's team moved with silent efficiency, neutralizing patrols, bypassing traps, and planting charges with meticulous care. Every step was calculated, every decision a blend of courage, intellect, and instinct. Elias guided the fleet from above, orchestrating diversions that ensured no Arbax reinforcements could interfere. His voice cut through the comms, calm and unwavering. "Patience, precision. Humanity does not rush into victory. We claim it." Hours passed, each moment stretching into eternity. Finally, Mara and her team reached the High Council chamber. The Arbax leaders were confident, unaware that the humans had already anticipated their every contingency. Mara's finger pressed the trigger sequence. Explosions erupted across the fortress, disabling communications and immobilizing the Council's command systems. The Arbax commanders realized too late that the humans had rewritten the battlefield. Panic and confusion overtook their disciplined ranks as orbital guns fell silent. Fleets lost coordination, and their command network disintegrated. Humanity had taken the impossible and made it inevitable. From orbit, Elias watched the final stage unfold. Mara's team emerged from the Citadel, alive, triumphant, and carrying the symbol of human ingenuity. The proof that the Arbax Empire could be broken, not by brute force alone, but by cunning, courage, and unyielding will. As the fleet regrouped above the smoldering Arbax homeworld, Elias spoke over the comms, his voice firm and resolute. "We have fought not just with weapons, but with spirit. We have endured, adapted, and conquered. Let this be a lesson to all who underestimate humanity. We are not merely survivors. We are creators, strategists, and defenders. And when pushed to the brink, we rise." Mara looked out at the shattered world below, her eyes reflecting both the flames and hope. They claimed the universe was theirs, she whispered. But we have written a new ending. Humanity survives, humanity prevails. In the silence of space, where stars shimmered like distant witnesses, humanity had faced its greatest trial, and emerged not just victorious, but stronger, smarter, and more united than ever. The Arbax Empire had been challenged at its heart, and for the first time, it knew the full extent of human ingenuity. And somewhere deep in the void, a new chapter of the human saga began, one that would be remembered not for the battles lost, but for the spirit that refused to bow, the courage that defied despair, and the fire that burned brighter than any darkness. The Arbax Empire had known fear only in whispers, and now they felt it as a roar. Their homeworld lay in ruin, orbital defenses shattered, fleets scattered, and the High Council incapacitated. The humans had struck at the heart of their power with a precision and cunning no alien intellect could anticipate. Elias Rowan stood on the bridge of Dauntless, the stars reflecting off his weathered face. Around him, the fleet, scarred but unbroken, held formation, silent in anticipation of the final act. He thought of Tarian Station, Hespera Outpost, and the countless lives that had endured terror and emerged stronger. Humanity had survived impossible odds, but this was the moment to define what they truly were. Mara Selwyn joined him, her hair streaked with soot and sweat, eyes ablaze with resolve. "It's done," she said softly, but the weight of the words was immense. "The Arbax can no longer threaten the galaxy. They will remember this day forever." Elias nodded, "Not because we destroyed them, but because we refused to bow." That is humanity's message. Across the fleet, human voices cheered, not for victory alone, but for endurance, ingenuity, and spirit. The Arbax had hanged their generals in thought, believing humanity broken. Yet the humans had turned that expectation into a trap, proving that the mind and heart are weapons the Arbax could never predict. For every human who had fought, for every life saved and every strategy executed with deadly precision, the galaxy witnessed a truth the Arbax could not ignore. Humanity was not merely a species. It was an idea, resilient, cunning, and unyielding. Elias recalled Mara's words from long ago, before the first battle. "We endure, we deceive, and we fight when hope is almost gone." That hope had become a blaze, lighting the darkest corners of space, igniting courage across planets and systems. The Arbax survivors attempted to regroup, but humanity's traps had been layered with foresight. Fleets moving in the shadows, sabotage of supply lines, and psychological strikes had crippled their ability to coordinate. Panic rippled through their ranks. A species that thrived on cold logic now faced chaos driven by the unpredictability of human ingenuity. Elias raised his voice over the comms. "This is humanity speaking to the Arbax Empire. We have endured your tyranny, adapted to your strategies, and emerged victorious. You hanged your generals in your arrogance, believing us weak. Yet here we stand, not as victims, but as masters of our fate. Let this echo across your worlds. Humanity never surrenders. Humanity never falters. Humanity strikes with precision and heart alike." The Arbax fleets faltered. For the first time in centuries, their empire faced defeat not by firepower alone, but by the audacity of a species that refused to yield. Humanity had not only survived, they had rewritten the rules of warfare, of survival, and of destiny itself. Mara's hand found Elias's shoulder. "Do you see?" she asked quietly. "They feared us, and now they know why." Below them, the Arbax homeworld smoldered, a reminder of what happens when intelligence underestimates the human spirit. Yet humanity did not celebrate with cruelty. The fires that raged were controlled, designed to dismantle their war machine, not annihilate their civilization. This was not vengeance, it was justice tempered with wisdom. Across the galaxy, news of humanity's victory spread like wildfire. Freed colonies rejoiced, alliances formed, and species long oppressed began to rise. Humanity had proven that even when faced with seemingly insurmountable odds, courage, intellect, and unity could prevail. Elias looked out at the endless stars. "We are more than survivors," he said. "We are creators, strategists, and defenders of hope. Every trap we set, every battle we fought, every life we saved. It was all part of proving that humanity's spirit cannot be chained." Mara smiled, her eyes reflecting the distant glow of liberated worlds. "The universe will remember this. Not because we conquered it, but because we refused to be conquered. We hanged our fears, and in doing so, ignited a new era. And in that silence, amidst the twinkling constellations and the remnants of a defeated empire, humanity's flame burned brighter than ever. The Arbax Empire had underestimated them, yet the humans had turned every expectation into triumph, every despair into hope. They had been hanged in thought. They had been tested in fire. But humanity endured, adapted, and rose, precise, cunning, and unbroken. The galaxy had witnessed the impossible, a species that transformed fear into strategy, despair into courage, and near defeat into legendary triumph. Humanity had written its own ending, and it blazed across the stars for all to see. The Arbax would remember. The universe would remember. And humanity had only just begun.